All right, guys. We're live on LinkedIn. Is everybody ready?
Talking about leasing.
Okay, so I'm with the A team and really excited about today's conversation. A couple housekeeping items before we jump in, and my guests and I have already run through this. If questions come through, I can see them all on my end. So as you're dropping in, let us know who you are, where you're tuning in from, and we'll be able to drop questions here on the screen that everybody can see. So if you have any questions, we'll make sure that the guests get to them. And for today, as we kick things off to talk all things leasing, let's start with some introductions, and we'll go Becky first since you're on the big screen.
Hello, everybody. My name is Becky Smith, and I am the Brand Engagement Director for WPM Real Estate Management. We operate just under 10,000 units in the Mid-Atlantic region, and we've got about 50% third-party management and about 50% that we own as well.
We'll go Andrew next.
Hey, so my name is Andrew Hudson or Drew Hudson, and I am the training and development specialist with American Landmark Apartments. We are based here in sunny Florida, Tampa, Florida. But we have properties all across. We have about 33,000 units right now. And I'm a part of a department of two, me and Dana, and I love training. This is 11 years in the industry for me, and I just love everything about multifamily. So I'm excited about this conversation.
Here we go. And last but certainly not least, let's jump in with Michael.
Hi, I'm Michael Lopez. I'm with Hawthorne Residential Partners. I'm a regional support manager. So I travel throughout our portfolio through the several states that we're in. We owner and we manage third party. And we have just over 50,000 units, if I'm not mistaken now. So I do a lot of training, a lot of just coming on site and supporting teams. This week I'm here in sunny Florida, just down the road from Drew that I just found out. I'm here in Fort Myers. So I'm enjoying this weather while I'm out here.
Yay.
And I feel like you're all on the road except for Becky or except for Andrew this week, which also shines kind of what the roles look like in the real world too, which I love. Well, hey, let's kick into gear. Starting kind of in this overarching conversation of leasing, enablement, helping everybody feel fired up about making it their best leasing season yet. I want to start off with a big one, just like your best piece of advice. What is a piece of advice you give to your teams, new leasing team members, or super tenured person who's getting ready for leasing season? What is some general advice you like to share with people that are gearing up for it? Who wants to go first?
I'll go first.
Andrew's
Wait.
in.
Yes. So, first of all, I raised my hand. That type of excitement is the excitement you need going into this season, right? We're going to be looking at numbers. We understand that it's a saturated market. There's a lot going on, and it's going to take whatever it takes. You're going to have to do whatever it takes. But the first thing you need to have is excitement. When I walk into offices, I'm like, where's the music? Because we all know that, everyone has the product and everything, but leasing, we can't forget that leasing is a feel. It's about the feel of it, right? How I feel when my prospects walk in the door. I want them to understand that this is going to be a party. We're going to have some fun, and we're going to get you the right apartment, right? And so I think my biggest excite is, number one, you have to be excited. You can't go into it defeated, right? We look at what we need to look at. We look at our numbers and our projected occupancy and things like that. But we need to look at it in a positive light. I am a firm believer that energy has a lot to do, as you can see, energy has a lot to do with getting that lease, and your prospects will be able to feel that when they walk through your doors.
Absolutely. And I think the energy and excitement is important, but I think I would be silly not to bring up the fact that over the last, let's say, 2-3 years, the really talented leasing people have, kind of lost their touch, and any new people that have been onboarded have not leased during normal times. So I'm hearing it across the board from both trainers, operators, owners, leasing folks, property managers, regional property managers, executives. We kind of fell out of touch with what it is that we do. So I think that it's really important to get back to basics, and something that we've really been driving home with our teams is offering them that the training on those very basic things like Leasing 101, like Andrew was saying, being excited to celebrate the arrival, follow up, making sure that we're getting on the phone and getting these people into our offices. In-person leasing is still a thing, believe it or not. It is not dead.
Sean really liked what you had to say, so let's keep it rolling. Michael, what about you? Let's close out. Just kind of general advice for someone as it relates to onboarding or crushing their 20th leasing season.
Right. I mean, I think they both kind of just nailed it on the head. And besides just excitement and having that positive energy and that upbeat energy when prospects are coming in and you're reaching out, it's just making sure you're knowledgeable too about your product, knowing what you're selling and being able to answer all those questions and be able to be that resource for someone who's coming in. There's no question you can't answer. And if you can't answer, you know where to look for that answer. And taking pride in the product that you're selling, get to know it, get to go mini model, go sparkle. So you have pride. Because I feel like when people have pride and they're proud of what they're showing, they're able to market it better, and they're able to sit there and be like, you want this, it's the best. And I know it's the best because I did it. Like, I made this a clean, and I mini modeled this apartment. So it's the energy, the positivity, and just the knowledge. I feel like dive into everything and set some goals for yourself, set some attainable goals for yourself.
Becky, you said something around just like fundamentals, and I'm a sales guy. I just happen to sell a different type of product than all of you. And I'd love to hear from you first, and then we'll hit the next two. Like, what are some of those fundamentals? We talk a lot about, response time. We talk a lot about catering and individualizing the approach as it relates to the tour. You're a professional, I'm not. What are some of those fundamentals that you find yourself harping on and also managing your teams to as it relates to leasing?
I think the connectedness to being on site. I think as I've grown in my career, I've had the opportunity to move farther and farther from being on site and moving into more of a strategy role. And I think there's just such a wealth of knowledge from both the operations, leasing, marketing, resident retention perspective that you cannot grasp if you are not on site. And that's why, regardless of where I am moving in my professional career, I always make the strategic effort to make sure that I'm spending at least 50% of my time on site, if not more. Residents, clients, our colleagues, there's just so many people to learn from and so many things to absorb from actually living in it. And every site is completely different. Every team's different. Every resident demographic is different. So spending time on site is really key to being successful in property management.
And look at your backdrop. You're clearly practicing what you preach, right? Here we go, y'all.
I was saying earlier, I am currently working out of a construction trailer in the middle of Glen Allen, Virginia. So if by chance the generator runs out of fuel, you're going to lose me.
Here we go. Andrew, I'm going to throw you on the spot, man. Just kind of your take on fundamentals, like as it relates to executing a great experience and process.
Right. So we're also here doing back to basics and fundamentals. We're actually rolling out a boot camp next week. But what we're doing is we're saying it's back to the basics, but in a new way. Right. And so I want to talk to the corporate employees or home office employees. Like, we have to leave room for our generation to do the basics, but in a new way. For instance, last week I was on site and I went into the assistant manager's office and I was like, let me see your renewal book. I'm a little up there in age. So I'm like, where's your renewal book? And he's like, what is that? He's like, I have something on the computer that shows you where I am. And I was like, you guys don't have renewal, so just kind of going through. Some people still have it because that's the basics they know, but we also have to leave room as we're going back to the basics. So we're talking about opening and closing checklists, right? What do you do when you come in? People may not want to write it out and check it. And, some people may have an iPad where they can do the opening and closing checklist. So it's back to the basics, but we have the little phrase new way. And so kind of meeting in the middle with the generate, because that we get leases when we are authentically ourselves, right? And so we try not to give them too much of a script to go by, but here is what we're giving you, make it your own. Here's the basics that we want you to do, but go ahead and build on that and on those fundamentals.
I like it. Michael, anything to add here?
Something that Drew just said, I like that the authenticity, being yourself with the prospects. I feel like there's a way to engage with your prospects. Not every prospect is going to respond to the the same kind of personality. You kind of have to know who you're selling to and really read your audience and know your client at that moment. So just what he said, both of them covered everything that I was thinking in my head. So I was like, okay, well, I got nothing else to add to that one because that one was really good. But I love the authenticity part. I feel like that's a huge thing that with being back to basics, like being authentic.
I actually had authenticity like written down on my notes for this conversation because I feel like, in speaking of like a secret sauce, that is the secret sauce, being authentically yourself. If it's in a leasing role, you're leasing to people that are choosing to live their day-to-day life at a community because of what you're selling them. Authenticity and your personality is not something that can be trained. So that's something that, when you're going into a career in leasing, that's the thing to drive home in interviews is who you are as an individual and who you are as a person, because we can train you on how to lease apartments and how to market apartments and how to deal with difficult residents. We can't train you how to be an authentic person and how people want to buy or lease a product from you.
I agree.
Do you have anything to add to that, Michael? You feel like you're chomping.
She hit it on the head, especially with the interview, the comment you made with the interviews. That's definitely something whenever I was interviewing a new leasing agent, it was the same thing. I can teach you I can teach you about the apartment. I can teach you the systems. I can teach you how to enter a guest card and how to do a follow-up, but I can't teach you personality or charisma. I can't teach you that. And I do feel like a lot of times what I tell my leasing agents is what you're selling is not always the product. You're selling yourself, because they can go to your comp, they can go down the road and they're going to get a bedroom, they're going to get a bathroom, they're going to get almost the same things that we're going to offer them in the apartment, but what they're not going to get is us. They're not going to get us, the feeling that we're going to take care of them and the experience that they're going to get from us. So that's something that I think is really important too when you're coming into this industry, is know like your competition is offering the same basic amenities that you are in the apartment, but what they're not offering is you as a person, the way you're going to make them feel while they're living here.
Have you either one of you ever been on a tour and had a prospect actually say to you, like, you are so amazing? Like,
pat yourself.
The reason I ask is because I like
all the time. All the time.
Yeah.
I don't really want to talk about it here, but no, I'm joking. Yeah, you're absolutely right. I oftentimes tell people like, be who you are, be who you were when you were in high school, or be who you are when you're with your friends, be who you are when you're with your family. That same type of attitude is what needs to show up. And I'm like, look, you don't have to be like Andrew. Like, I'm a squiggly line when it comes to personality. So I'm out there, but whatever your personality is, tap into that. And that's what you're going to use to close more leases.
Andrew, I want to ask you a question. We've got a ton of people commenting about like authenticity. And I really like Zach's question. Can you read that on your screen?
Do you feel that regardless of the authenticity provided by a leasing team member, the prospect still feels as they're being sold to? To an extent, yes, Zach. I do agree that it's still in sales. But what I try to teach is there are some people that when you're authentic, there's still some. Have you ever taken a personality test and you say, I can kind of see myself in all of them? Right? I can kind of see myself in all of them. And so I teach our team members, when that prospect walks in the door, I have to know what shape they are. Who am I selling to? If I'm selling to a squiggly line like Andrew, I can be myself. I can be loud, authentically me, and I'm going to get that lease. But if I have a triangle, and I'm using a personality, the shape one, but if I have a triangle, which is an analytical person, and I've had those where they looked at me like, boy, if you tell one more joke, I'm not here for that. I'm here for the square footage. And so in that case, for me to connect with that person, I need to get on their level. So I do think that there is, you just have to break down those barriers of, okay, I can tell a joke, but I need to pull back just a little bit if I want to get this lease and focus on the logistics and the numbers. If I'm with a circle, they're compassionate. I can be a lot for a circle, right? For a person that's compassionate and soft, my loudness can scare them away. And so if I want that lease, I have to learn how to, come at them the way that they receive it. So Zach, I do think that there's always that sell barrier, but building rapport will have that barrier come down as you build rapport and let them know, look, I'm here for you. Like, you got to have a place to live. Why not do it with someone that you love or you've had this connection with?
we just promoted somebody on our team into a training role, and he gave a really cool like discussion based training recently on Leasing 101. And one of the first things he said, I thought it was really poignant. His name is Mark Dixon Patrick. So he got on the call and he looked at everybody and he said, the other weekend he went with his husband to go look at cars, and he walked onto the sales lot, and that car sales guy walked right up to him, and guess what he tried to do? He tried to sell him a car. When leasing agents interact with prospects, guess what the prospect is there to do?
Yeah.
To lease an apartment. So yeah, we are going to sell to every prospect that comes through, and every prospect is going to feel like they're being sold to, because that's our job.
Right. They came to us. They're walking in I feel like they're walking in expecting to be sold to. It's just
correct. Like
it's trying to figure out like how they want to be sold to though. You, like Drew was saying, you want to meet your person where they're at. You don't want to just come in super aggressive and they're more laid back and they just want to have a conversation, let the conversation flow, and you're just sitting there talking numbers and facts. But then you do have the people who come in that they just want to know how much the rent is going to be. They want to know utilities. They want to know an average of how much are my utilities going to average every month and all that. And you have to meet them where they're at. And that, I feel like personality and that kind of like way of connecting with them sells better than it just does if you just come in there with like a script and you're just selling the same way to everybody. Not everyone responds to it, but they are coming in knowing that they're going to be sold to.
I think it's like a good mentality thing for leasing agents to understand that, I think it's especially because we're not just speaking to the experienced people like us, we're speaking to new leasing agents who that's a very real fear, rejection, and people coming in and you trying to sell them something and them not wanting what you have to sell. So understanding that every prospect that comes in is in fact understanding that they are going to be sold to, it kind of just eliminates some of that awkwardness. And like you and Andrew are both saying, it kind of brings out more of that authenticity.
It does.
All right, everybody is echoing Chris Arnold's question. Let me throw it up here on the screen. The question's around marketing collateral. I'll read it out loud, then whoever throws their hands in the air first gets to tackle it. What pieces of marketing collateral are a requirement today versus old school items that you feel are no longer necessary on site?
I don't feel like answering this without my director of marketing present. It's on me.
You talked first, man. Cardinal rule.
So this is of course, this is of course going to have to do with your market, right? And the team that's delivering it. So I see some teams, they are comfortable with the floor plans and the paper and the giving and, hand stuff, memorable piece. So I just think it depends on your market, where you are. If you're in a student housing area, you may not want to have a lot of hand touch marketing. They have enough, right? Everything is virtual. But if you're next to Piccadilly's or in a place where the age may be older, your demographics, then you still may want to have some type of collateral marketing materials on site for your teams. And so you can kind of compromise, right? Have the card, but have it with a QR code where they can just scan it. But if they don't have a telephone or a smartphone, have something. So I think you should always have the backup. Like, I don't think we've crossed over that threshold just yet where we can silence it. Some areas have, but I think you should always have a backup just in case you have those prospects that want that paper touch feel.
I agree. I think it completely depends on your market and where you're at, especially with the younger generation that's coming up. It's a lot more digital and it's a lot more virtual. So those digital ads on Facebook, those online stuff, I feel like is coming. It's a really good tool to have, and I feel like we saw a lot of leasing activity, a lot of traffic based on that online marketing. But we did also still have the tangible kind of old school paper and hand sanitizers and pens and cups, because the market where my last property was based out of Louisiana, Mardi Gras. I mean, those Mardi Gras parades, we were throwing cups and throwing pens, and I mean, it worked. People were calling us, and that's how they got our information. And again, with that market, there was a lot of plant workers and a lot of refineries. And so we would reach out to the HR departments and give them our brochures and our papers with information and that kind of they can hand to their employees when they would move from other states to come. So we did a mix of both. I think Drew's right. Like there's room for both, for virtual and for tangible. I think all marketing collateral is still usable for sure.
I mean, I think I'm sitting on a throne of collateral at the moment. So I definitely don't think it's dead. I think Christy Ficker,
industry legend,
made a comment earlier about options, and I can't agree with that more. Yeah. I think having the options available, we have, and I think it's not just for prospects, but also for the leasing agent. Like some leasing agents rely on collateral. They want to take that floor plan out and be able to draw on it. I know people that will take the top 3 things during discovery that someone mentions it, write it on the guest card and have the person, or write it on a floor plan and have the person check those things off as they go through the building, noting, yeah, you said you wanted hardwood floors, check. You said you wanted stainless steel appliances, check. You said you wanted a golf simulator, check. And those are part of like their closing tools. And then you have some companies that are going super green and they don't want to have any of that print collateral, not to mention finding places to store all this stuff is another challenge. So I just think, not one size fits all. I think every property is different. Every marketing strategy is different. So I think having the options of both. One thing that I think Chris will enjoy hearing is that having different strategic partners in the print and digital advertising space allows us to kind of customize that collateral program for each individual property. So Chris has got some really cutting edge, really good visual looking stuff that he can put together that may stand out in comparison to a collateral package at another community. So I still think it's worth looking at how that stuff is progressing, because if you've got the old school big folders where stuff's flying out of it left and right and your business cards falling out into the parking lot as the prospect's leaving, that stuff might be dead. But there's certainly new, like Andrew was saying, the QR codes, things like that make the collateral a little bit more condensed.
Mm-hmm.
So I have a question that's like kind of an offshoot of this topic. Like how do you all create feedback loops back into your marketing teams? I mean, you are the feet on the street, your teams are the feet on the street, talking to residents, engaging with prospects, you're seeing the signals in the market. What are some of the best ways that you're sharing, feedback? Sometimes it's probably critical, sometimes it's probably just super positive back with your marketing team so you can iterate and make sure that you're, moving the ship forward.
I kind of straddle the marketing department and the site team. So I feel like I have a pretty cool perspective on that. So the way that I see it is like a property is like a really good meal, and the site team is the chef. A lot of companies operate where things are kind of delegated from the top down. Something that's really unique about WPM is that we kind of feed up. So our marketing team works on behalf of our site teams. So kind of like I've been saying throughout this entire thing, no one size fits all. Our marketing team relies on the feedback from our site team. Our site team relies on feedback from our clients, from the market, from our prospects. So we are the closest thing to the product. So the information and the tools that we need from whether it's marketing, IT, accounting, HR, getting the perspective from the site team is essential to making sure that all of those other departments stay successful, stay profitable, stay busy. Because we utilize them. So it really is a partnership between the marketing team and the site teams at WPM where, maybe one site has vacancy and the site next door has none. Well, then the marketing department shouldn't be, descending down upon the sites to tell them what they should and shouldn't be doing. That one site's going to have to tell them, let's pull back on spend. Let's increase on resident retention. Instead of bringing new people in, we want to put those marketing dollars towards events and things that are going to keep the people here happy.
I agree. And someone just commented that too about the prospect loss reasons. But the communication from on site, I feel like with Hawthorne is a huge thing that we do also is we communicate with the marketing department directly and our regional managers in those markets, letting them know like we're not seeing traffic coming from this source of marketing. One property that I was at when I managed it was billboards. We did a billboard and we just got it didn't do anything to help us with traffic. So those marketing dollars were better spent in other areas that we had to make sure that my leasing agent was putting the correct information of how did you hear about us and getting that feedback so we know where to put our marketing dollars. But so yeah, just to kind of touch on what Becky had just said, it's the communication from the on-site teams, because they're, like you said, they're the chefs, they know that property and what's working. They're getting the feedback. The marketing departments have to be they have to be communicating with the marketing departments to let them know what the best way to spend those dollars is.
Andrew, I want to put you on the spot. Christy Fickert is an industry legend. Love that she's watching today. I know that you know her, and
yes,
she threw in a pretty big comment earlier on that I missed, and basically talking about optionality. I think that's a word. I might have just made that up. And ultimately, like the importance of not being a one-trick pony when it comes to your technology offerings, but having the right thing to offer to the right prospect. And I'd love to start with you here. When it comes to tech that you and your team cannot live without as it relates to leasing, crushing, moving fast, moving forward, what are the things that you personally or your team just has to have in the eye of your leasing cycle?
Yeah, I think just to first start off, like the approach should be, raise your hand if you're having a problem with this. So I think identifying those leasing professionals that struggle with that and maybe having a separate course or webinar or something, or go on site. We still, like Becky said, going on site is still a thing, and helping them through that. Right now, the thing I'm trying to press over, we just started with our Ingrained Touch tour on the iPad, and being able to actually just take the iPad with you to the apartment, have that live leasing. If this apartment home is not working for them, well, I have one on the second floor. And, we have the people that are not used to the iPads. And I remember when I wasn't used to it, but now I love it. And so you'll have them like, I'll go shadow in there. I'm like, where's your iPad? They're kind of still hesitant, like, oh, okay, he's here, I got to take it. And I'm like, no, I want you to see how great this is. And sometimes I'm like, you can actually pull up everything, interactive leasing, and you don't even have to go back to the office. Sit them in the model wherever you are and say, hey, go ahead and apply right now from the leasing iPad. And so I don't see how anyone could think they can live without it right now, leasing that way. So I definitely think, and as to Christy's point, giving that option to your prospects, being comfortable saying that I'm okay with a virtual tour, and we're going through the same thing. Are you okay with the virtual tour? Can we do it virtually? Everybody wants everything quick. And someone said something, I wish, if you're watching now, I credit you, right? Someone said that when we think about our comps, we always think about, the apartments, but we're competing with so many other companies, right? Amazon, you can click a button and have a product right there. And so now our prospects and our residents, that's what they're thinking. Like, I need it right now. I need an answer. I need a solution. I want to see the apartment. I want to see it now. And I go through that too. So the Ingrained Touch tours is my favorite. And I think just giving them that option to like have and just train them on, we have to have more trainings on how to use the product, the technology that we're giving them.
Michael, you look like you want to jump through the screen. You look so excited on technology. You tell me
I was slightly coughing actually a little bit.
Oh, okay. Well, I misinterpreted
the technology
now you're on the screen.
I agree. I mean, I think we're in a culture of convenience. At least for myself, I'm always looking for what's the most convenient for me. All my friends in my personal life will tell you, like, I love everything to come to me. DoorDash makes so much money off of me because I want things brought to me, and whatever's going to be the easiest for myself. So if that's the way, again, kind of going back to knowing your audience, if that's the way that's going to be best for them, the technology has to be there. And the Ingrained, I just learned about that a couple weeks ago at our conference. They had a booth and I got to kind of play around with that. And I just thought that was the most amazing thing ever, that a prospect could just sit and play around and get kind of all that information. It doesn't take the role, I think, of an in-person tour. You kind of lose that person-to-person human interaction there for sure. But the technology, I think it's awesome. The Ingrained thing was incredible. I loved it. And now that I know that Drew has worked with it, when if we decide to roll out with that, I will be calling you to teach me how to use it.
Yeah, and there's so many other things. Like there's a lot of things. Speaking of Christy, like RealLink, they just rolled out a new thing where you can actually watch a video on your property's website, a video you made. And so it's like there's so many other options. When I was on site, I used RealLink and different things to make videos and send it text. So I think you just really need to get with a company, the tech company and the tech people, if you're not tech yourself, and find out the best options to teach that to our team so that they feel comfortable. Because there you go, like Becky said, there's that comfort level, being authentic. How can I be authentic when I've never touched an iPad before? So it's like,
Becky, I feel like you're the perfect person to finish this part of the conversation because I think of you as being somewhat like technically resistant.
I
Like,
was literally just sitting here quietly, like, please don't pick on me.
I'm going to pick on you because I think you like to cold call. I think you are the classic salesperson that just believes in like the brass tacks of selling, but you're part of a huge organization. You can't do it without technology. Like, what are the must-haves or a must-have in your world to make sure that you're enabling your team, that you're delivering a great experience to your prospects, whatever it might be? I'd love to hear from you, even if you're a little bit resistant to participating in this section.
No, so I think that my technology tools that we could not live without are going to seem pretty basic, and it's going to make the other things that we talked about seem like so much more high tech. But in the, it's very on brand to be speaking about back to basics on this call today. So I would say a technology that we can't live without is Entrada's text messaging option. For a long time, that was just not as easy to do that back and forth communication. They had to like opt into like messaging, and it wasn't actually a text, it was like through email. And in the last 2 years, they've really vamped up so that it essentially seems like the prospect is just texting back and forth with you. And I think people are so much quicker to respond to text messages. So when speaking about efficiency of lead management and follow-up, being able to text people to set that appointment, send them a video, get a yes or no response, it just seems to be a lot more, it adds a level of efficiency.
I'm sorry, Mike. I just love that she said, because that text messaging, it's all integrated into what we're doing now. Like it seems basic, but like you said, that is what they're using. Here we use Rent Dynamics, and we tell our teams all the time, turn on the texting toggle, turn on the texting toggle, turn on the texting toggle, because as you said, we're changing. Some people like that phone call, but back to basics, effective follow-up, right? Mm-hmm. Why are you sending a templated email that says, hey, it's been so long when you just saw them Saturday, right? But that is an effective follow-up. So, Becky, I know you said it's basic, but texting is not at all, because I rather send you if I'm in a meeting, if I'm doing something, I can text you right away.
I was just going to say, think about how many text messages you sent from the age of like 14 to 18 that were under a desk without even looking at your screen. Like, that's how easy it is for us to respond via text. So I think the text message option has just made things so much more efficient.
Yeah.
I like it. Hey, we've talked about a ton so far, like authenticity, fundamentals, going back to the basics, tech, feedback looping. I'd love to talk about touring. I feel like crushing a tour is a really important part of the sales process. And one of my favorite podcast episodes ever was with Andrew, talking about how he likes to overwhelm his prospects with specificity. He doesn't just say that he's got a great closet. He said he's got a closet that can hold 62 hangers, and it like creates this like connection with his prospects. So no order. I'll let you guys jump in whatever order you want to. What are some of your standout tips for crushing a tour?
I like to be like the local expert. So I got really lucky because the first lease up that I ever did was I could see it from my front steps. It would take me longer to drive through the traffic downtown, like 15 minutes, but I could literally see it from out of my front door. So knowing like the best places to eat, the best places to grab coffee, and not just like Uno's and Starbucks, but like the good, authentic local places. My favorite thing to do on a tour, if it was the morning, it was, so are you going to grab coffee after this? If it was in the afternoon, so are you going to grab lunch after this? If it was at night, are you going to grab dinner or happy hour? And then I'd hit them with like the best local place that if they said like, oh, I love burgers, I'd be like, well, you need to go to Wayward after this. Like, go ask for Tony at the bar, tell him to make you the Becky special. By that point, these people are like already living in they already see their life
Right.
getting the Becky special on Tuesdays from Tony.
Right.
I love that. I think, and something that kind of like what she just said was kind of making them feel like you already live here. When I would do tours, I would ask people like their furniture, like, so what kind of couch do you have? You know, do you have an L-shaped couch? Do you have a sectional? Is it just a love seat type situation? And then kind of arranging the furniture for them in the apartment in their head and talking about like, well, you know, if you put your couch here, you would have this amazing view. You'd have this, just kind of talking to them like, you already live here. So by the time, you know, when they get back to the office, they're already thinking like, man, my couch would look amazing there. And I put my TV here and my bed here. And they've already designed their whole apartment in their head. So by the time I get to them to the office, I'm like, so we're applying, right? Because like, clearly all your stuff is going to fit in this apartment. So making it personal like that, personalizing it and getting them to envision what their life already looks like in there. And talking about like their favorite restaurants in the areas around town of how close they are to the restaurant. Like, you know, you could just get off your couch and you're a mile down the road from this amazing restaurant and everything, just making them feel and getting them to see the vision of them already being there, them already living there.
Yeah, mine is back to the basics. If you want to crush a tour, you need to ask for the money. And I get excited about this. Why do all of the build up and all of the show if you're not going to ask? Becky said it so good earlier. Why do you think they're there, right? Why are they there? So you have to ask for the money. I was just in San Antonio shadowing with one of my leasing professionals, and I usually don't say anything, but I just jumped in. The couple were like, "Oh, there are two things that people say, right? The leasing professionals say, why didn't you get that lease?" They were still looking. What does that even mean, right? Or the second one is they're looking for July or June or later, right? And so we have to come back and still ask for that lease. So the couple was there and they were like, yeah, we're not looking to June. And I asked one question that set the whole thing apart. And I said, why? Why are you not looking until June, right? And then they were like, well, we're living with the parents and da-da-da-da. By the end of the tour, we got into like different specials and things, and they ended up applying, right, to move in April instead of June or July. And so you just have to close. You have to ask for the money. It works. I was at another property, and I was like, watch this. I was like, would you like to pay your application fee right now and put that on the market? And then there was a pause. And at the end, when they left, I was like, you saw the pause? You saw the pause. I'm like, it works. So it seems basic, and I know it's like we say it over and over, but asking for the money on every single tour, that is what they are there for, right? And you almost should feel like, I will offend this person. When I go somewhere and someone doesn't ask me if I want to buy something, I'm like, well, do they think I can't afford it? Like, why are they not asking me? So you should always think of it like, look, this is what you're here for. I think you're ready to put that application. Yeah. It's the confidence that you bring with you. So if you want to crush a tour, bring that confidence and ask for that money. You've already built rapport. So it's not like you're a stranger, right? They're asking for their best friend. You're asking because you know that this is something that they need. So crush it, ask for the money.
Love it. Okay, last question, unless we get any more good ones from the live audience. And I don't know who's going to take this one first. I want to hear your secret advice, like the things you typically only share with your teams behind closed doors, the back pocket tricks that are only for Becky's people, Michael's people, or Andrew's people. One thing each, one piece of just tricky, or it might be basic advice that you'd give the audience.
I live by this, which is that nobody is great at everything. And anybody that claims that they are great at everything sucks at everything. So I like to find maybe like 1, 2, max 3 things to really go 100% in on. And I think that that's like what can make or break your career in whatever it is that you do. So like you may be a leasing agent that, isn't super tech savvy. So social media is not going to be your thing. You're not going to be winning any social media contests. Don't let that be the hang up. Don't let that make you feel like you're not a good leasing agent. If you're really good at understanding your comps, you're really analytical, you could do market rent analysis, you can still be a really rock star, solid leasing agent without that social media side. If you can come to me and tell me what every comp is offering, the square footage, what specials they have, how many tours they took last week, why you think they outperformed me, I'd prefer that person over somebody that can post on TikTok. If you are somebody that happens to be really good at social media, but you're not super analytic and you can't really dig into all the weeds and stuff like that, then go 100% in on that social media thing. Increase your followers, increase your awareness, go to that executive table and tell them how your reach has helped you get 5 new leases this week. It doesn't matter that, you didn't go to that networking event and meet all those people and bump elbows, or that maybe you took 10 tours last week and only got 3 applications. If you've increased awareness and it's led to additional exposure on social media that's, boosting your online advertising, celebrate that thing. You can get good at the other things, but be great at a select number of things, and that will help you excel in your career.
Yep.
Have you read StrengthsFinder, Becky?
No.
StrengthsFinder, you just gave the pitch for why everybody should read StrengthsFinder. Double down on what you're great at.
I'll be waiting for the FedEx guy to come by later with my copy.
I already sent it.
Yeah, I think it's so your best leasing season yet. And I think we put all the pressure on the leasing, which it should be. But I think, speaking to the people on the call that work in the home office and corporate, I think in this season, what I do, my secret sauce is the support we have is overwhelming. And so during this season, I'm like, you guys are going to have to do whatever it takes. But I understand, Drew, you're also going to have to do whatever it takes to support the team during this time. And so we created something here that's called Me Time. And so they can put in a ticket, and no matter where I am, I could be on the airport. It's very unofficial. I'm like, oh, Me Time. So I'll get on FaceTime them, right? What's going on? Well, I had a lease and I had this, and I'm like, let's talk through it. And so that support right there is like, we're stepping it up just a notch, because we understand this year we're expecting a lot from our leasing, but what are we putting out as support for our leasing teams during this time? We can't just be like, do it. And so that's my secret sauce, is being a support to my teams no matter what.
I love that, Andrew.
Yeah, it's just like no matter what. And they feel like, because we, there's this complex that we have when we're, and that's for another video, but as corporate and home office employees, they look up to us and things like that. So we got to humble ourselves and be like, look, I'm here for you. We don't even call ourselves, I don't call myself corporate. I'm here. We're on the team. I'm your support. What do you need? So we do the one-on-ones. It could be 15 minutes, 30 minutes before I get on the plane. And we're talking. I'm like, listen, try this, ask it this way, and tell me how it feels. And then they're emailing like, oh, I got the lease, or it worked, or sometimes that didn't work. I'm like, all right, let's try something else. It's not always perfect, but yeah, that's during this season, as we expect more from our team members, let's get ready to give more.
Well said, man.
I love that. I feel the same way. I feel like something that I like. I try to push my leasing agents and my staff whenever I was hiring, of like, ask everything. Ask me everything. I want to teach you everything. Like, I want to give you all the tools that you need to succeed. And so I felt like when my leasing agents, even my assistant managers, when they felt like the support was there from me as their manager, when I was giving them everything they wanted to do better, because they could see the growth. And then I made sure that they were aware of my story, of where I started and how it worked for me growing in my career and whatnot. And like Drew said, being the support, at one of my previous regionals said something that's kind of always stuck with me. She was like, no matter what role we move into, whatever role you grow into, you're still a leasing agent regardless, because we all have to have that mindset of like, this is a team effort. And then it kind of touches on like what Becky said. So play to your strengths as a leasing agent, play to your strengths. And that might mean that me or the assistant might have to pick up a little bit of slack in this other area, because if your strength is social media, if your strength is touring, but you're not super great at the admin part, that's the part where, you kind of struggle. Maybe I'll take that on for you, because we're all in this together, and making sure that they understood that. So that's always been kind of like I don't want to say it was a secret sauce because I was very vocal about that with all my companies. Like, I want you to grow. I want you to grow. And so my secret sauce, I think, as a manager and just an employee, was support, like you said, and just pushing to make sure that they knew I was behind them all the time, because I felt like when I showed them that I was behind them, they wanted to do more. They wanted to be the best they could be because they saw where it had gotten me and other folks. They wanted to take that path also. So for me, it's a combination of both the support and then the asking the questions, like doing all that, playing your strengths for sure, and making sure that they understand they can.
I like it. Well, hey, you all crushed that. Thank you for joining today. For everyone tuning in, thank you for joining. If you have an idea for our next LinkedIn Live event, please let me know. Definitely want to keep making these happen. And for the time being, we're ending on time. Have a great rest of your day.
Bye.
Okay.
You all crushed that.